What is up? Welcome to my latest deck profile. So on stream yesterday I hit Plat 1 with Adignisters, which is a deck that I've been wanting to play for a while and climbed with on my alt account. So I hit Plat 1 with it on stream, which you can see they're all saved on my channel. So figured I would go through the deck list, explain how the deck works, and obviously have some replays showcasing it. So Adignisters is a combo deck, obviously. It is a Cybers focused Link archetype, where almost all of the monsters you summon from the extra deck are Link monsters. It's a deck that has seen tops in the TCG, like quite a few, and is like pretty like solidly rogue there. Here it's not quite at the power level to be considered rogue, but how powerful some of the decks are running around are, but it's still pretty solid, I would say. One of the big advantages is that very few, like pretty much nobody knows how to play against it. There are a lot of cards here that have graveyard effects that your opponent is not going to read and not realize until it's too late and completely screw themselves over while trying to play against it. Another strength of this archetype is that it has the ability to fit in quite a few staples. So as you can see, I'm running plenty of hand traps, some tech choices as well that you have some flexibility with. This is just the personal preference that I have. Obviously you can play it your way. The deck is fairly cheap, I would say, overall. The vast majority of the cost comes from the expensive staples. So if you don't want to run URs, you can run like cheaper ones like Forbidden Chalice, for example. But you can make it work within your budget. The core of the deck is all low rarity. So you do have like 4, I guess, ultra rares in the extra deck. It's not too bad. I would say it's cheaper than Drytron's. Probably a little bit more expensive than Virtual World. It's a little close. Really the difference just being made by the staples. But with that being said, let's talk about the purpose of the deck. So it has a couple ways that you can play it. It's good both going first and going second. So when you're going first, you generally want to set up the boss monster of the archetype, which is the Arrival Cybers Adignister. This is the only Link 6 in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! So far, and as the effects that it's unaffected by all card effects, and the original attack of the card becomes 1,000 times the number of Link materials used for its Link summon. So usually you're going to be using 4 with the standard combos, so it ends up being 4,000 attack and unaffected by everything. It can also pop a monster, any other monster on the field, which is nice. That's not a quick effect though, so you can only use it during your turn. However, you can also sometimes get this card up to 6,000 attack if you use monsters with 6 different attributes, which is definitely achievable with this deck. I would say it's usually not worth doing that, because you're really throwing all your eggs into one basket, and at the cost of your follow-up, you're just making one big beat stick that could lose to kaijus. So because kaijus and stuff are running around, there are other options that this deck has, like Cyber's Quantum Dragon, that can be a pain for your opponent to deal with. That's what I generally try to do going first, is you set up a rival, usually with 4,000 attack, then have Wind Pegasus, which either Wind Pegasus or Cyber's Quantum Dragon. Wind Pegasus has a graveyard effect that nobody reads, so which I'll talk about a little bit later. So that's generally the game plan going first. Going second, you want to set up Access Code Talker and make it with Update Jammer. So if you do that, it gains at least 2,000 attack, depending on what you use as Link material. You can also use Transcode Talker, so it goes up to 5,300, and it can attack twice. So you can make Access Code Talker, nuke your opponent's field, and then attack for lethal twice, or like attack twice for lethal by itself. That's what you want to do going second most of the time. So yeah, with that out of the way, let's talk about the main deck monsters. So your best starter is Achichi, Adignister. Picari and Achichi are your 2 best, but I'd say Achichi is a little better usually. So if the card's normal or special summon, you can add 1 level 4 or lower Adignister monster from your deck to your hand. Usually the first thing you want to search is Picari, if you don't already have access to it. So it's Oh yeah, something, sorry, that I forgot to mention is that both Picari and Achichi are 1-card starters. So just if you start with a hand of just these cards, just one of them, you can get to the arrival just with those 1 cards. And since you're running 3 copies of Signet Mining and 3 copies of I Meet You, which converts these cards, you're effectively running 12 copies of it. So that's pretty nice. Which means the deck is still fairly consistent despite playing all of the hand traps and stuff. So yeah, you have Achichi, searches an Adignister monster. It has another effect in the graveyard, which rarely comes up. I find this to be more annoying than anything, because every time you try to attack with the Cyberse monster, it prompts you to use the effect, and if you do use it, it destroys your own monster, so just be careful with that. But you can use it to basically avoid battle damage if your opponent's about to smash you with like a giant beat stick into one of your monsters. You can destroy the monster during damage calculation, and you take no damage there. Picari has the effect that to add 1 AI spell or trap from your deck to your hand. That's the main effect that you're going to be using here. So you can get to I Meet You, which can get you to another one of your names, any of your Adignister monsters. I can also get to your revival spells, and also the field spell. It also has the other effect that comes up sometimes, is changing one Adignister monster's level to 4. It's pretty rare, but it does sometimes come up. Then you have Doyon, which is another important piece. I like to play 2 of it. It's not bad to open with. So this allows you to basically keep follow-up. So if it's normal or special summon, you can target 1 Adignister monster in your graveyard and add it to your hand. So you are allowed to target even a Link monster. So like if you have an infant in the graveyard and you need another one in your extra deck, you can target 1 in your graveyard and add it back to your extra deck. The other effect is also very useful, since you can recycle 1 of your AI spell or traps in your graveyard. So if you use I Meet You, for example, you want to definitely get that back to your hand, so you can use Doyon to do that. Then we have Danmari. Danmari is iffy. It's not the most useful. I don't like how restrictive it is that you can only use its effect while you control a Link 6 monster, the graveyard effect, but it is a negate, so I do think it's nice to have. And it can also special summon itself from your hand when your opponent attacks one of your Adignisters. That rarely comes up, because you usually want to have it in the graveyard, but I think it's decent. Yeah, Bururu. So this one is, first of all, it's the tuner, so that's important for getting you into your level 7 synchros. It can also foolish any Adignister monster, so that's one way to get Danmari in the graveyard. You can also use combos with your revival spells to get access to names that you don't have, so it's pretty versatile. So it's also searchable with not only with the AI spells and Achichi, it's also searchable with Cyberse Wicked, which I will get to when I get to the extra deck. So I think it's very important to have at least one of these. Hiyari. So this one is a level 1, but it has the ability to special summon itself from your hand while you control an Adignister monster. So this comes up, I'd say, somewhat often, because your field spell relies on you not having any monsters in your main monster zone. So this is another way to get another body on board. It can also search your Gachiri. Gachiri is a card that nobody reads, literally nobody. I've even played against Adignister players and they don't even read the card properly. So if you send it to your graveyard, you can target one of your monsters, and, well, first of all, you can special summon itself by negating one of your Cyberse effect monsters, special summon it. Then if it's sent from the field to the graveyard, you can target 1 face-up monster you control. That target is unaffected by your opponent's card effects until the end of your opponent's turn. So people don't realize that this protection lasts 2 turns. So you can make something completely unaffected by card effects for 2 turns, and your opponent generally always tries to destroy your monster. So if I have like a Cyberse Quantum Dragon backed up with Gachiri, they'll try to destroy it and then not realizing why it's unaffected. So I think this card is very useful. It's also a way to play around Nibiru, so you can force it out generally by protecting your Templar, who's one of your key combo pieces. Then for the remaining engine here, we have the Fighting Spirit. This is a Reborn. And then Idle Reborn. This is another Reborn, obviously. This is a quick play spell, though. I played one of each of these because, since obviously they have different names, they do similar things, but since they're both hard once per turn, you can get access to potentially 2 Reborns that way. And we have AI Contact. So since you're going to be drawing multiple of your field spell fairly often, this is a great way to draw 3 cards, which is amazing. I found this coming up fairly often, and it's a really powerful card. Speaking of which, let's talk about the field spell, probably the most important card in the entire deck. It is what facilitates basically everything. It's very, very powerful. So if you control no monsters in your main monster zone, you can special summon one level 4 or lower Adagnister from your hand. But for the rest of this turn, you cannot special summon monsters with the same original attribute by this effect. Also, you cannot special summon monsters except Cyberse monsters, even if the card leaves the field. So, this effect is not once per turn to special summon. It's once per attribute per turn. So you can do this up to 4 or 5 times, get a free special summon from your hand, which allows you to link climb and get to your arrival. So it's essential to your deck's functioning. So I play 3 of it, and the 1 terraforming, of course. Obviously, this means you are going to see multiples of it, but like I said, I think it's too crucial not to play max copies of. You absolutely need it for basically everything that you want to do. And AI Contact helps mitigate the probability of opening multiples. It also has a graveyard effect, which, again, your opponent is never going to read. But it can banish 1 Adagnister monster from your graveyard and set the card. So even if they destroy it, it can bring itself back. That is hard once per turn, but it's good to know. So, let's talk about, I guess, the tech choices. Oh, this is not really a tech choice. This is what some people call the Master Duel attacks. 3 Maxi, 3 Ash Blossom, 2 Call by the Grave. That's pretty self-explanatory. 2 Nibiru. So I was originally playing Kaijus. I was playing Godarla, the Wind Kaiju. But I found that it would sometimes conflict with some of your monster effects, like Transcode Talker, so it got a little bit annoying. And I found Nibiru to be like really good. Because the thing is, if you set up Arrival on your first turn as well, it's unaffected by everything, even your own card effects, so you can actually Nibiru, and it will only tribute your opponent's monsters. So that's really awesome. I don't know if I would play 3 if I had 3rd. Probably not, because I wanted to leave room for a couple other things. 3 Forbidden Droplet for going second into Drytron and Tri-Brigade. Yeah, I'm glad I definitely included this. It's just a very powerful card. It's the best going second card probably in the whole game. Then Twin Twisters and Lightning Storm. This deck does struggle with Eldlich. You don't really have any outs to skill drain, unfortunately, so kind of had to run these 2. I wanted to run more, but that would mean cutting down on these. And unfortunately in this meta you can't really afford to do that. Because as soon as you take out your back row removal, then you'll just get... you'll go up against skill drain Eldlich. Then if I remove my hand traps, I'll go up against Rongo. There's really no winning. And is one of the reasons why Konami really needs to make a good ban list. So that is the main deck. Let us proceed to the extra deck. Let's first talk about Dark Infant Adagnister. This is a Link 1, and is also very essential to starting all your combos. It searches your field spell on summon, which is obviously crucial since you need to get access to your field spell. I was originally playing 3, but I figured that since you can recycle one of them with Doyon, it's not too bad to play 2. And I never found myself really needing a 3rd when I used Doyon properly. So I think 2 is correct. We have Splash Mage, another key combo piece. Being able to make it with any 2 Cyberse monsters and then reborning anything is awesome. And also this card basically just ensures that you can just go into Access Code Talker with any 2 Cyberse monsters. So you just link them into Splash Mage revive one of the Cyberse monsters, go into Transcode Talker, Transcode revive Splash Mage, then Transcode plus Splash Mage equals Access Code Talker. So literally any 2 Cyberse monsters gets you to Access Code Talker, which is awesome. I definitely want to play 2 of these. And then we also, of course, transcode talker. Not only does this have the ability to reborn a link to, like I just said, but it's also an earth attribute, which works with I Meet You. So I Meet You allows you to reveal one of your cyber sponsors with 2300 attack in your extra deck, and then add one of your Adignisters with the same attribute. So this is your, by playing this, you have a way of searching Gacheri, which could come up a lot. I should also probably explain this card. It locks you out of monster effects for the rest of the turn, except cyber sponsors. I forgot to mention that. So if you have like max C and you think your opponent might special summon during your turn, you have to use that before. So you just probably shotgun max C and then use I Meet You after, because then you won't be able to use it. But yeah, I Meet You, it's key. You obviously want to play 3 of them. You do take 2300 damage if you don't special summon the monster that you revealed. So like for example, if I want to add a Chi-Chi, so I activate I Meet You, I reveal the Fire Phoenix, because this is the only fire one that I have in my extra deck. So then I can add a Chi-Chi. So if I don't special summon Fire Phoenix at some point for the rest of the turn, then I'll take 2300 damage in the end phase. This is usually fine. Usually doesn't make that big of a difference, and it's like not that big of a price to pay for getting your combo started. You can also generally avoid it by revealing Templar and then searching Doyon, since you're going to summon Templar anyways later in your combo, so that'll prevent you from taking the 2300 damage. So yeah, really awesome card. And this is the reason why we're playing Light Dragon. I don't think this card is that great, but being able to search, just the fact that it's light and 2300 attack is good, because you can search Bikari. That's really the main reason. So yeah, I'm kind of disorganized here, but trying to go through this as best as I can. Dark Templar, another key combo piece. I wouldn't play more than one of this, but it's a triple reborn potentially, which is amazing, and is your best way of facilitating getting to the arrival. So yeah. It has another effect as well. I've never used that before in my life though. And the other thing with the infant, it has the other effect, which is, it is pretty important. It's also kind of weird. You have to use it properly. So this is actually a quick effect. It's not a trigger effect, which means that the last thing that has to happen is using Dark Templar's effect. So you're generally going to summon your infant to the Dark Templar's left zone here. You'll activate Templar as Chainlink 1, and as long as your opponent doesn't have any responses, then on Chainlink 2 you use infant, which can move itself to one zone to the left, which frees up 3 zones for Templar to reborn 3 of your Adignisters. I know this is a little difficult to explain, but you'll see it in action. And then the infant, you can change its attribute. So you can, it's generally best to just change its attribute to Divine, since you can choose any attribute in the game, and choosing Divine will not conflict with any of your Adignisters and allow you to guaranteed go into Arrival. But yeah, so Templar is obviously a key combo piece. Fire Phoenix, I only summoned this a couple times. It is nice that it does come back, but generally really the main reason is that it's fire in 2300, so you can search a Chi-Chi with it. Wind Pegasus is a form of back row removal. You can force out your opponent's traps and stuff. Unfortunately, it doesn't really do anything against skill drains, so you're kind of screwed if you have to go up against that unless you draw your outs. But it also has the other graveyard effect, which is really powerful and something that your opponent never reads. So if one of your cards is destroyed by battle or an opponent's card effect while this card is on the field or in your graveyard, you can banish it and then shuffle one of your opponent's cards into the deck. This is really awesome, obviously. Cyber's Quantum Dragon. I wasn't playing this one originally. I had the third infant, or I think I might have had Link Spider. But I replaced this because I think this is a pretty strong turn 1. So if you can make this card with Gacheri, which makes it unaffected by everything, and then you also have your Arrival, it's very, very hard for your opponent to out. So even if they kaiju your Arrival, this guy's still unaffected, and then when they try to attack it, you can bounce one of your opponent's monsters. And it can also do that on the offensive. If your opponent has something that's like, I don't know, it can't be targeted or destroyed, then you can just attack with this, bounce the opponent's monster, and then attack again directly. And then it also prevents your opponent from attacking into the arrival, so they'll have to attack into this, and then you bounce it. So I think Cyber's Quantum Dragon is fairly decent. One that I added more recently is Security Dragon. I actually like this card quite a bit. One of the unique things that it has is the ability to make it by using just 2 monsters. So whenever you have like a Nibiru token, or if you have your own Nibiru that you control, this is often your only way to get into, to free up your main monster zone to use the field spell. And it also has a bouncing effect, which is really nice. So if you summon it and then you revive it with Transcode Talker, then it'll be co-linked, so you can use the bounce effect. So I like this this card quite a bit. Cyber's Wicked, you gotta play this, at least one of them. I don't know why you'd play more than one, but you do have to have one. It randomly has the effect that it can't be destroyed by battle or card effects, which sometimes comes up as a decent turn 1. It's somewhat hard to get rid of, but really the main effect is that if a monster is special summoned to a zone the card points to, then you can banish one Cyber's monster and add a Cyber's tuner from your deck to your hand, which is Bururu. That's your main way of getting to Bururu. And then that can allow you to climb into Splash Mage and continue your plays into Templar and then Arrival. Update Jammer, this card is extremely good in this deck as well. It allows your Cyber's monster to attack twice. So this is your main way of OTKing with Access Code Talker. If you make Access Code Talker with Update Jammer, then you can obviously use Access Code Talker's effects to nuke your opponent's field, and then, like I said before, I think attack twice directly and deal lethal damage by itself. Yeah, and then obviously Access Code Talker is essential. You gotta have this. There's really no negotiating that. I've even seen some deck lists in the TCG playing 2 of them. One of them that I saw, which was a YCS topper, he played this deck as blind going second, which is what I tried to do initially with the Kaijus. But unfortunately, in this meta, going first is so strong that even if you draw like a decent hand, you can't really beat like a VFD or a Herald with 4 negates. Like, it's really not worth it, so I just tend to go first with it. If they start hitting their decks, then maybe going second will be a more viable option. So that is all I've got for the deck profile part of it. Let's get into some replays to show off what the deck can do. First replay here is going to show the basic game plan and how the deck is generally played. So I'm going first here. You start with your field spell. Here I don't have my Achichi, so this is one way to get access to it. I send it with Bururu. I summon the Infant to search another field spell. This helps to thin your deck so you don't draw it later on, which you don't want. So Reborn the Achichi and use its effect. So now you'll search the Picari. Obviously if I started with just Achichi in my hand I would normal summon it, but here I had to get a little creative there. So I summon Splash Mage, let's free up the main monster zone and then use the field spell again. So this is a light, so I can use it again. Splash Mage to revive the Bururu. Now we go into Templar, since we have 3 monsters with different names. Here you summon another name that I had in my hand. So here I'm going to show you the Infant effect. So you summon Infant to this zone. It has to be exactly this zone. So make sure that you're using the right extra monster zone. So you trigger Templar's Chainlink 1. Chainlink 2 you use Infant. Change its attribute to Divine, so it doesn't conflict with anything. Templar, you Reborn through them. And Cyber's Quantum Dragon. Bururu will revive the Picari. Now I use I Meet You to get Transcode Talker, reveal Transcode Talker to get Kachiri, and special summon it. Now link into the Arrival, 4000 attack here. Kachiri, target Quantum Dragon. So you have, then I'll take the 23 damage since I didn't summon Transcode Tucker. So since you have Quantum Dragon, it's unaffected by everything right now. And then the Arrival is always unaffected by everything. So it's going to be very hard for your opponent to out. So I shotgun Maxi here just in case he has Kaijus. My opponent didn't read, obviously, so he tries to droplet. Neither of these are affected by it. Does some Frightford plays. Yep. Okay, he tries to pop it, obviously still unaffected. He tries to attack it and bounce it, and yeah. That's the game plan basically for going first. Now I'll show an example of going second. This might be the sackiest hand I've ever had in my life. So my opponent is going Thunder Dragons. Unfortunately, this deck does lose pretty hard to Colossus. So it's nice that I have Droplet. Goes into the Fusion for Thunder Dragon Titan. Okay, so I have like the God Hand, literally the God Hand going second. So like 3 or 4 going second cards, and a Chi-Chi and the field spell. So I go for Twin Twisters, I discard the Nibs because that's not going to come up, and then Droplet. I send 2, so I send the field spell here because worst case scenario it can bring itself back by banishing the Chi-Chi later. So I need to negate both of these because this one can disrupt you during your turn. So I go for a Chi-Chi, he maxes me, and I have called by because I am skilled at the game. So here with the Chi-Chi, I will search Picari as usual. Infant to get the field spell. Field spell and Picari. Let's get the I Meet You here. I'll reveal access code Talker since I'm going to summon him anyways and get the Doyon. So here both of these effects trigger at the same time, so you can do Chainlink 1 Wicked, Chainlink 2 Doyon. Oh, also, one thing important, when you're sending Doyon, or when you summon Doyon, and if you don't need, assuming you don't need to add back your infant, because you can afford to banish one of them, you want to add back the monster that you normal summoned. Because with the field spell, as long as you haven't special summoned a monster with the same attribute via this effect, you can still special summon it. So since I normal summoned a Chi-Chi, I can actually still special summon it with the field spell. So whichever one you normal summon, you can grab it back. Here, Bururu will send Denmori. Okay, and this is basically the classic play. Update Jammer. Access code. Jammer Chainlink. Make sure you do Jammer Chainlink 1. Or just make sure access code is the highest Chainlink, because they can't respond to it. I've seen a lot of people mess that up. So pop them both. And attack twice for lethal. GG. Here's a match that I had against a Water Xyz player. That ended up being pretty wild. So I start with the Chi-Chi. There are some times that you want to start with Picari. If you think your opponent will negate your infant, because you need to get access to your field spell, so sometimes it's safer to normal summon Picari and then search the field spell right off the bat to guarantee that you have access to it. Here I go for the Reborn. Do the same chain block here. It's a normal to Chi-Chi, I can add it back and then special summon it later with the field spell. Add the Bururu. Send the Danmari to have the negate while I have a rival up. Go for Templar. Here I choose to just summon the Chi-Chi here because there's no point in using the other infant because I'm not going to have a 6th anyways to make the 6,000 attack arrival, so yeah. So I'll just make a 4,000 attack. Yes, Kaiju, of course. Normal summon barrier statue. Goes for the Bahamut Shark. He goes for Utopic Future. This will be a pain out, of course. Revive the Chi-Chi. I choose not to use the effect here because if he negates it with Utopic Draco, he'll take control of it, and then I can't do anything really. So here I go into Kachiri. I target. So my plan here was to bait out his Utopic Draco Future. Because like I said, people usually don't read Kachiri. I don't know if he actually read it this time, but he used Called By on it. Unfortunately, that prevents me from having protection on Splash Mage. So I come up with a different idea here since I have the Wind Pegasus in the graveyard. I realized that. I just choose to use it anyways, so he takes control of it. Which gives me a tiny opportunity to get back in the game because Utopic Draco is once per turn, so I crash, Maxi, and use Pegasus effect to bounce back the Draco Future. So I'm still in like a top deck mode, but it still hasn't killed me. And I top deck a Chi-Chi. Grab the other Reborn. Go to Transcode Talker here. Revive the Splash Mage and then use Splash Mage. It's the thing that you can do. Here I decided to go into Security Dragon to bounce his monster here because it has a floating effect. Then I use Doyan to add back the other Reborn. So this is an example of when having both Reborns with different names would make a difference. Just out of spite, I Reborn this guy. I make a misplay here. I don't know why. I tried to pop the Splash Mage, but I forgot that our rival has to special summon a token to the zone that the card points to, and it only points to one zone. So I had to pop the one that I had here, so there was no reason to do that. So that was just a misplay on my part. But here I make the access code with a Link 6, which means it gets up to 8,300 attack. I pop Splash Mage in one shot. That's a fun one. Next we have going second against Eldlich, which is of course a pretty bad matchup, but show you the best way that you can do it, I guess. That's 4 passes. Here I'm going to shotgun Maxi because of I Meet You again. Let's go for a Chi-Chi. No skill drain. At least not yet. So he flips Torrential Tribute here, which is a little annoying, but I can still search the Reborn, so I'm not completely out of it. So I joined a Lightning Storm. The kind of it's like a double-edged sword, I guess, in this deck, since you do generally have the field spell up. So you could maybe play Harpy's Feather Duster instead if you want, or another Twin Twister. But I like that it can be used against combo as well. So I grab back the Chi-Chi, reborn the Picari, and then he flips Gozen Mash. Now this is very, very annoying because obviously, as you can see, this deck has a bunch of different attributes. So only being able to use one is, well, it makes the deck unplayable, so I have to get rid of it somehow. So go to the end phase. For no reason, he flips Conch. I guess he forgot that I was under max C. He destroys the field spell. This is what I was talking about. Nobody reads these cards. They don't realize that I can bring it back, first of all, and second of all, he's playing into Lightning Storm. But, you know, a lot of players don't really think. Let's be real. So now he sets the counter trap. That's a bigger problem because I have to bait it out before I try to use Lightning Storm. Yeah, I literally can't play unless I get rid of the Gozen Match. So I draw Droplet, which is interesting. So I try to Doyon here, grabbing the other Doyon. He flips Sakero. Now, as a complete bait, I use Droplet. So what I want to do is, well, just force out the counter trap. Make him think that I'm going to have his attack and then beat over the Golden Lord. But I actually can't. I don't have anything that can beat over it, even if it's halved. Not that I know of, because Picari is 1200. This would be 1250. But, of course, my opponent doesn't know that. So he uses the counter trap. Now I'm like, oh, wait a second. I actually have a chance now. As long as that's not like a Solemn Judgment or something. Or Imperial Order. So now I can destroy this ball and trap since I don't control the field spell. And it was a Torrential Tribute. And I got rid of the Gozen Match, thank goodness. Now I can actually play, and in fact I can kill him if he doesn't have another hand trap. So go through plays, standard plays, for going second. Just want to make access code talker made with update jammer. That's about it. And here you can also use Gachiri in this way. So you can make the access code talker unaffected by card effects until the end of your opponent's turn as well, which is awesome. And it's basically impossible for your opponent to out. So even if this card is like a, I don't know, a late Nibiru maybe, or an Imperm, then this will protect the access code talker. So again here, when you're making your chain links, you have 3 trigger effects going off. So you want to do, well, it doesn't matter which one is chain link 1 or chain link 2, but as long as access code talker is chain link 3, so they can't respond to it. Okay, so now access code talker is 4300 attack, unaffected by everything, and can attack twice. Good luck, my guy. There you go. If they open like Imperial Order, there's nothing you can do, unfortunately, but luckily my opponent did it this time. So that's how you win against Eldlich. Here's a fun one. Now I'm playing against the Mirror Match, so another Adagnister player. You don't see very many of them on ladder. So I get to go first. You always want to be trying to bait out your opponent's Ash. That's something important to remember. So if you have this island, always make sure that you're using the Infant's effect, even if you already have this, so they will Ash you and waste them. Waste hand traps. That's how this deck plays through multiple interruptions. You can also sometimes bait with Sign-Up Mining. People always Ash Sign-Up Mining, probably because you discard one, and it's a really good card. So they're always going to Ash this pretty much, which will allow you to, if you already have a name, or if you have I Meet You, then do your combos. Uninterrupted, hopefully. So now we do Splash Mage, get the Bruru, jump Danmari, revive, then go into Templar. So instead of making the Wind Pegasus right off the bat, I'm going to go into Templar first. So now I do Sign Up Mining to get the Hiyari. So what I'm thinking here is I'm going to try to make the the Arrival, and then I want Cyber's Quantum Dragon backed up with Gachiri. So Hiyari is one way to search Gachiri, since it can literally just searches, attributes the Chi-Chi, adds Gachiri. Now we do the infant play, where we change its attribute to Divine, and move it. Revive 3. Then we can synchro into Quantum Dragon. Then revive back the Picari. And summon Gachiri. And boom. Arrival. And now this is unaffected. So my opponent starts with Picari. I do have one interruption during my opponent's turn. Danmari. So I can negate any card on the field. Or any card that they control. But obviously, since I know how the deck is played, they could always be baiting with these normal summons, so I think it's too risky to use it early. Here, if they already have a field spell, then it's a waste. So now I realize what I'm going to try to negate. So I don't want him to get access to Gachiri, so that'll make it very hard for me to kill him even on my next turn, which can lead to things spiraling out of control. So I think he knows that I have Danmari, and he's trying to bait it out. Maybe he read it. So he uses a Chi-Chi. I'm not biting on this. So now he uses uses Gachiri, targeting the Chi-Chi. So now I can actually chain the Danmari, because Gachiri is worded by saying you can target one Cyber's effect monster you control, negate its effects, and if you do, special summon this card. So if I negate it first, then he's not able to successfully negate, and then he can't special summon it. So I know he can still go into Access Code Talker, obviously, or even his own Arrival, maybe. So Doyan, he recycles back the Infant, which makes sense. Okay, here's a big mistake that my opponent made. Okay, this is what I was talking about on the wording on Infant. So Infant's a quick effect. It's not a trigger effect, which means you can't do it this way. He did Chainlink 1 Templar, Chainlink 2 Doyan. But since the last thing to happen wasn't the Templar effect, then you can't actually activate Infant. So it has to be Chainlink 1 Doyan, and then Chainlink 2 Templar. And then you'll get a chance to Chainlink 3 the Infant. So since you messed that up, you can't use the Infant. He goes into his own Wind Pegasus. Destroys my... for no reason. Literally no reason to do that, by the way. Just playing into Lightning Storm if he somehow outs my board. So now he goes for Fusion. He's playing this, this is like a weird, like, super poly target, kind of. But it is technically an Adagnister. Then he goes into Access Code Talker. I don't like playing with any of the fusions, because this card's just not that good. It's just a beat stick. We already have beat sticks. So his Access Code Talker, even my opponent didn't read Gachiri, I guess. Or maybe he just forgot. Surely he must have if he had his own. I don't know what was going on in this guy's head. Maybe he just forgot and he tried to pop my Quantum Dragon and it didn't work. Goes to battle, he attacks with the Pegasus, which is, again, the wrong decision. He should have attacked with the Golem, because Pegasus is at least a disruption during my turn. And he beats over Access Code Talker. So now I have Lightning Storm. Since he popped my field spell, again, no good reason to do that. I can just Lightning Storm these monsters, get my field spell back, and continue. As if nothing happened. So now I recycle my own Infant since I think I used both of them. So I had to get it back. And just keep it simple here. Update jammer. Access code. Attack the game. And unlike my opponent, I'm not going to pop this field spell. Because it also plays into Imperm. Remember, while he controls a card, he can't use like a card like Imperm from his hand. There's no reason to pop this. It doesn't do anything during my turn. I'm just going to attack directly twice for lethal. GG. That's all for today's deck profile. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. And feel free to join my Discord and follow me on Master Duel at my ID here. Looks like we got 43 followers. Awesome. Peace.